make some stats. We would like to show stats from that. But some stats, maybe TLD operator decides so, can become public. So we're going to be very flexible here. We can go to the next slide. So zone managers, like I said, will have a dedicated private interface, which will allow them to graphs to show growth over time. That's why we need that first sample zone, which is the domain in your zone. It'll be a domain name, a creation time, and the country code of the registrant. Having the country, giving the creation date means I think that's useful. So, for example, .io, it's an African domain. We don't look at it, do we? No, never mind. But IO itself is used by lots of people who have got no relationship to the Indian Ocean domain itself. Implementation is running now. Continue. So, what would name servers that don't work? Now, a name server may not work for a couple of reasons. One, the customer has bought that name totally to be.
Connectivity comes in different sort of, I would say, categories. You look at the infrastructure and accessibility. You need those infrastructure. You may be sort of launching your satellite before you want to provide internet to people using the satellite. You might also be qualifying, in cables, marine cables. So there are people who build, those things and spray them. The GSM, operators, they are also quite keen. And also the domain name, the domain name services, domain name operators, registrar. These are new sort of jobs for Africa. And domain name registrar means that you are selling domain names and people make money on those domain names. There's big money there. So all of this is, open to Africans as well. And we are here actually to spread the word so that people can see what they can get from this.
Last question.
Because this African sort of strategy is quite big, quite comprehensive. But we as ICANN, of course, we are not here to be, I would say, the one putting resources in that continental strategy. But we can just provide what we can in terms of, I told you about coordinating the resources of the internet, coordinating how the internet works. That itself is already a big issue. Because whatever you are reading in the African strategy is about internet. So if your internet is not really working, if you don't have the capacity, the skills to manage your domain name, you are getting nowhere. So yes, what we are doing is part of all of this. But we are not just saying, okay, domain name come. No, we say it's a multi-stakeholder sort of business. Everyone has his own part to play, and that's important. And we as ICANN are here to deliver our own portion, which is securing the internet, you see, and making sure that your own languages, for instance, will be on the net, that your internet be used for your development, for your social economic development. These are things that we are here to do.
Thank you.
It's only been going half a day, so it's a little bit difficult to give a proper overview of what's happening. But what it really is an opportunity for people around Africa who are interested in not just having a website or a domain name, but interested in how they got the website, how they got the domain name, how things work, the background to the whole of the system. And that's why these people are here, to understand how the glue that holds everything together. So, for example, the reason that I'm here is in order to do to create a DNS observatory of Africa. The observatory is exactly as it sounds. It's something that looks out and it collects data from the African environment, and by having that data from the African environment, it also means that if someone else in this organization decides to do some great work, like help people get new domain name system, new domain names, new GTLDs for African use, then we can see that how that grows and develops. Or if someone else from a technical point of view does something really boring, like teaches a whole bunch of people how to do DNSSEC, which is domain name security, the stuff that I'm doing, the observatory itself, will see the changes. How many more domains suddenly are DNSSEC secure, domain name security. And domain name security is good. It provides security for domain names and potentially for email conversations and other things like that. So those are the sorts of outcomes that I'm hoping for from an observatory point of view. And the people in the audience are literally the people that would be providing the information for the observatory, hence me being here. I normally get abused per se. What I have seen is that a lot of people, companies, they want a domain and they get a domain, and they often don't get a domain from the local country, the local CCTLD. They rather go for a .com domain, which means, and well, sometimes .coms are cheaper, so that's why they might do it. And other times they feel that they don't necessarily have trust in what their own people, their own countrymen do, so they go for something that's out of the country instead. That's why so many people have, for example, Gmail addresses or Yahoo addresses rather than, I don't know, mydomain.co.gn or something instead. That's the problem, because they feel maybe their own people can't do things themselves. We don't have that problem in some countries like South Africa, but in other countries I believe that's quite prevalent. They choose their own CCTLD for their own domain. I think it makes sense. For example, there's a radio station, Radio 702 in South Africa, and their domain is 702.co.za. I don't have to think about it. I probably don't have to type in www beforehand. I just type in 702.co.
Notre première rencontre physique va se faire à Ouaga pour les premières rencontres africaines du logiciel libre, après 2 ans de communication mail et téléphonique, c'est-à-dire en 2002. Quand vous le rencontrez pour la première fois, vous avez l'impression que vous l'avez toujours connu. J'en témoigne à ce que Rodrigue a dit tout à l'heure, parce qu'il vous accueille avec une telle chaleur. Et cette attitude détermine le reste de vos relations. Il y a eu cette époque avec lui où Papa Pierre nous a transformés en évangélistes. Nous sommes devenus des évangélistes pour la cause du logiciel libre en tant qu'opportunité de développement, de transformation et de résilience de l'Afrique. Nous avons abordé les capitales africaines et françaises, enfin les capitales et villes africaines